Were Iran's nuclear facilities really destroyed, or is someone lying? The White House says they're gone. The intel community says not so fast. Is the war really over? Joining us now is Daniel McAdams. He is the executive director of the Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity and the co-host of the Ron Paul Liberty Report, a popular daily internet news and discussion program. He was senior advisor to Representative Ron Paul on foreign policy, military, intelligence, civil liberties, and immigration from 2001 until Paul's retirement in 2013. Daniel, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me on again, Kim. I really appreciate it.
Okay, there's a few things that we have to talk about because the world has gone absolutely mad, like usual. The first thing being that there's some question about whether or not the Iran nuclear facilities were destroyed or not destroyed. I want to play this little clip first. This is Pete Hegseth.
Whether it's fake news, CNN, MSNBC, or the New York Times, there's been fawning coverage of a preliminary assessment. I've had a chance to read it. Every outlet has breathlessly reported on a preliminary assessment from DIA. I'm looking at it right now. Again, it was preliminary, a day and a half after the actual strike, when it admits itself in writing that it requires weeks to accumulate the necessary data to make such an assessment. It's preliminary. It points out that it's not been coordinated with the intelligence community at all. There's low confidence in this particular report. It says in the report there are gaps in the information. It says in the report multiple linchpin assumptions are what this assessment, a linchpin assumption, you know what that is? That means your entire premise is predicated on a linchpin. If you're wrong, everything else is wrong. And yet, still, this report acknowledges it's likely severe damage. Again, this is preliminary, but leaked because someone had an agenda to try to muddy the waters and make it look like this historic strike wasn't successful.
Okay, so did they do it or did they not? CNN here says exclusive early U.S. intel assessment suggests strikes on Iran did not destroy nuclear sites, sources say. And then you, of course, get these other headlines saying Israeli officials see significant damage to Iran's nuclear facilities. So, Daniel, what do you think? What do you think it is? Did they do it or did they not?
Yeah, it's become a real mystery, but, on one sense, it's irrelevant. And I mean, what I think we're seeing here are two tracks. One, the White House is trying to create a narrative. That narrative, for whatever reason, I have an idea of the reason is, that narrative is that we had the greatest bombing run in the history, and our dear bombers and pilots were upset because it was questioned whether they were successful. I don't know. I thought we got the wokeness out of the military. I don't think they were crying over that. But nevertheless, they want to establish a narrative that they obliterated Iran's nuclear program. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. And on the other hand, you have this idea that perhaps they didn't do it. But Paul Craig Roberts came out with an article today, and there's plenty others like it, which is it doesn't matter because what they have done, if you accept that narrative, which I don't usually, but in this case I'm fine with it, that removes every reason, incentive, justification, excuse for Israel to once again attack Iran and start bombing it. So if it takes us believing Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump to remove that incentive, then I think that's a fair deal. Because who's pushing this idea? Besides CNN, a lot of neocons are out there saying, "Oh, didn't do it." A lot of Israelis are saying, "No, they didn't do it." Who's the gentleman yesterday? I forget his name. He said, "No, it can't be done that way. It can only be done from the inside." So there are people who don't want the United States out of this war, and they're the ones that are pushing this counter narrative. Very, very dangerous stuff. But ultimately, we'll take this as a win if it works.
Yeah, I mean, this is, so do you think that the facilities were actually destroyed? I mean, it seems like, on one hand, I see what you're saying. Like, if we just believe, Trump seems to be doing things without really any evidence. I mean, even Tulsi Gabbard came out in March, said there's no evidence that Iran is building a nuclear weapon. Trump then says, I don't care what Tulsi says. I say they are. And then he bombs them. And then again, it's some of the intel community or some of these war hawks coming out saying, and also, just I think average people. I mean, when I looked at the footage of the sites, I mean, it doesn't look like there was very much damage. Now, I know the military then came out and did a whole thing on, well, this is how these types of bombs work. Let me explain it to you people. They drill into the ground and then they explode underneath. But nonetheless, you think that there would be some caving in. I mean, if there were structures underneath, then you would think that if the structures blew up, that there would be caving in of some of the ground from above. And we really didn't see any of that. So I think even just from the average person's perspective, it kind of looks like, did you do anything there? And we saw the satellite imagery of the Iranians taking stuff out of there, like maybe they knew in advance. And so kind of now look, like I'm not a warmonger at all. Like I'm not saying, yeah, we didn't destroy Iran's nuclear facilities because I want us to actually go and destroy them. But it just, I think, adds this layer of complexity to Trump in trying to understand him and his motives. It's almost like, okay, he just bombed them because the Israelis wanted, but he gave maybe Iran, I mean, my theory is he maybe gave Iran the heads up, said, yeah, I got to do it. They moved their stuff out of there. Then they bombed it. Whether it was a success or not, Trump doesn't seem to care. And he's saying, yes, it was a success. Stop questioning it. And it's all bombed. And don't worry about it. Don't worry about it anymore, because he doesn't want war. Because I think he really doesn't want war. But there's so many neocons around him, and the Israeli, the Zionist regime that really wants war with Iran, and he's trying to figure out a way to. I mean, I think what's confusing to the rest of us, and I'm curious about your thought on that, and I'll stop talking. But I think what's confusing to the rest of us is, why do you even need to placate them at all? Like, you are the president of the United States. Why do you have to play these dumb games of basically tricking the neocons of Washington and Israel to get them, why not just say, look, I'm not going to bomb Iran, I'm not going to go to war. So bottom line, get out of here. I'm the president of the United States.
Yeah, then he gets a call from Miriam Edelson. He says, I didn't give you that $100 million for nothing. But, here's what I think happened. And I think this is a pretty good explanation. As we remember from the Iraq War, the neocons have a song and dance that they sing. This will be a cakewalk. It'll be over in a day. No Americans will die. The war will pay for itself. They will greet us as liberators. They always do this. They cajole presidents sometimes with weak egos, into believing their lies. And I think they did the same thing with Israel. I think Israel felt that this was the time to strike Iran. They believed the narrative that Iran is very weak. The regime in Iran is very fragile. There's a lot of opposition, and they won't rally around the flag. On the contrary, the regime will disappear, as they said about Iraq. And when they conducted the strikes on the leadership of Iran, that was one thing. When they were able to disable the radar for 8 hours to prevent any retaliation, that was another thing. Everything was functioning according to the plan that they had laid out, except they didn't count on one thing. Iran was able to reconstitute its ability to not only protect itself with AD, but also to strike back with missiles that they had been talking about, but the world hadn't seen. And these are some missiles that have never been used, with the exception possibly of Ukraine, but nothing of this nature has been used in warfare. And I think that panicked everyone who said it would be a cakewalk, probably some people in the Trump administration included in that. And they were looking for a way out. And perhaps this, as you say, Kim, and I think you're right, perhaps this kind of, there are many ways of conducting war. And one of them may be picking up the phone and saying, hey, we're going to hit some spots in the desert. And Iran says, okay, but we're going to have to try to hit your military base. Wink, wink. Let's just call it a day because, this is getting bad. I think that is probably the better explanation of what's happening where we are now. And let's not forget, for a number of reasons, Israel is not able to absorb the kind of punishment that Iran is. And some of it is geography, some of it is population, some of it is psychology. And they're getting hammered. They lost 1.5 of their 2 ports. They lost Ben Gurion for quite a while. They were in danger of being completely isolated, in fact, of collapsing themselves. They were on the verge of collapse themselves. So, this may be Washington trying to pull their chestnuts out of the fire.
Mm-hmm. Did you see this tweet? Look, I definitely want there not to be any war, but it seems like there's. This is the thing that I think is confusing. And again, it just kind of goes back to what I'm saying of why would we even need to placate Israel. Why would we need to placate warmongers at all? And then you end up with this tweet from Donald Trump. He puts this out, or Truth. Did you see this one? Where he's basically like, save Bibi. We're going to save Bibi, he says. Right here, breaking news. I was shocked to hear that the state of Israel, which had just had one of its greatest moments in history and is strongly led by Bibi Netanyahu, is continuing its ridiculous witch hunt against their great wartime primetime minister. Bibi and I just went through hell together, fighting a very tough and brilliant longtime enemy of Israel, Iran. And Bibi could not have been better, sharper, or stronger in his love for the incredible Holy Land. Anybody else would have suffered losses, embarrassment, and chaos. Bibi Netanyahu was a warrior, like perhaps no other warrior in the history of Israel, and the result was something that nobody thought was possible, a complete elimination of potentially one of the biggest and most powerful nuclear weapons anywhere in the world, and it was going to happen soon. We were fighting, literally, for the survival of Israel, and there is nobody in Israel's history that fought harder or more completely or competently than Bibi Netanyahu. And I believe he goes on. I think this is actually, I want to say that got cut off. Did that get cut off? He says, right, it did get cut off. He says, he goes on to say, we were fighting literally for the survival of Israel. Despite all of this, I just learned that Bibi has been summoned to court on Monday for the continuation of this long running. He said he's going through this horror show since May of 2020, unheard of. This is the first time a sitting Israeli prime minister has ever been on trial. Politically motivated case concerning cigars, a Bugs Bunny doll, and numerous other unfair charges in order to do him great harm. Such a witch hunt for a man who's given so much is unthinkable to me. He deserves much better than this, and so does the state of Israel. Bibi Netanyahu's trial should be canceled immediately, or pardon given to the great hero who's done so much for the state. Perhaps there's no one that I know who could have worked in better harmony with the president of the United States, me, than Bibi Netanyahu. It was the United States of America that saved Israel, and now it's going to be the United States of America that saves Bibi Netanyahu. This travesty of justice cannot be allowed, he says. I mean, could he get his face further up his, what is going on here? I mean, what do you think this is?
I mean, I hate to say it, but it's kind of shades of Biden if Biden had been given amphetamines or something, because it's just crazy. But if you unpack what he said, there are a couple of interesting things that he said in there. Bibi and I have gone through hell together. Well, he must be referring to this war with Iran. It must not have gone as smoothly as they said. And the other one is that I saved Israel. Well, how did he do that? Then why did Israel need saving if Israel was doing so well against Iran? Yeah. And even at the NATO summit yesterday, President Trump said, Iran or Israel got pounded big time. And it was like, there are some interesting things if you read between the lines. You need sort of an AI Trump translator or something, because there are some gems. There's some gems in there that are fascinating. But on the other hand, if you just look at it face value, how wise is it to get involved in the internal affairs of a foreign country, particularly with regard to legal issues that I'm sure he doesn't understand? Now, I'm not someone who listens to the Brazilian President Lula very often, but he had some good advice for President Trump recently. He said he needs to stay off the social media and concentrate on governing the United States. And that's pretty good advice.
Yeah. I think your theory is right. I mean, I think it's probably Israel realized they were in deep doo-doo with Iran, and they really did not realize. They went into it thinking, did they really honestly think? Do you think that they really honestly thought like it would be just like any other, like no big deal, we'll just attack Iran and they can't get us? I mean, do you really think they thought that?
Well, the neocons and the pro-Zionist right-wingers, what have you, are not very creative in a way. And this was a successful attack that they used against Hezbollah in Lebanon, in Syria, to decapitate the leadership and disorient the rest of the fighting. I mean, it was demonic, but brilliant what they did in Lebanon with the pagers, the decapitations, the target assassinations. It threw the entire Hezbollah movement into complete disarray.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for that, they wouldn't have been able to bomb Iran as they were able to. A lot of the airstrikes flew over Syria. So they probably thought that we could just scale this up, do the same thing. It worked really well before. Scale it up a little bit, and it will be that cakewalk. Well, it turns out that it wasn't. Iran was not the paper tiger that they thought it was. And Iran has now established some serious serious disincentive for any country to attack it again. It's shown that it can fight back, even though, of course, they took a big pounding too.
Yeah, they did. But they still fought back, and Israel did take a big pounding. And I think Israel was shocked by that. And I think you're probably right. It's more, but then again, this is my problem with the whole thing is if it was Israel, in fact, realizing, oh crap, whoops, we kind of stepped in something and we didn't think it was going to be this bad. So now we need a way out. So why don't you just help us out, bomb these facilities, and we can say, yeah, they're destroyed, and let's just move on. And we can end this war because, whoops, that again, why are they in control? Why does it take them saying to the U.S. president, whoops, our bad? Why can't it just be, look, we're not going to war for you. We're not going to fund it. We're not going to get involved. You shouldn't have even attacked them to begin with. I mean, they should have just been rebuked by the U.S. military, by President Trump, for even attacking in the first place and said, no, you started the war. You're in it now. You're in this mess. I mean, I just don't. But really, the fact that they were even allowed to attack without the U.S. saying, absolutely not, we will not have your back, and you guys need to know we mean it. Even if Trump did say that to them, look, I don't think I'm going to have your back on this, they clearly thought, yeah, you will. Yeah, you will. Yeah. So it's another showcase saying, even if it is that Israel's realized, oh crap, we got to get out of this, it's still the fact that they're clearly still very much in control of our foreign policy.
Yeah, there's no question about it. But one of the things that was encouraging, there were many prominent voices on the conservative side in the U.S. that I was quite surprised to see being very emphatic about. People like Steve Bannon was very emphatic. He's certainly no Israel hater, but very emphatic. Don't do it. Eric Prince, don't do it.
Yeah.
A lot of other people on the conservative side who rose up and said, don't do it. And if you look at polling numbers, of course, and I know you've seen these, the young Republicans, 18 to 35-year-olds, do not have a positive view of Israel whatsoever, and that's continuing. So it may have been a situation where Netanyahu realizes that his window is closing rapidly and that he needs to do something quickly. But, they did formally ask for U.S. help within 24 hours of their surprise attack. So they knew very quickly that things were not going well, and they needed someone to pull their chest inside of the fire. But I definitely take your point. Why the hell do they get to control our foreign policy? And the more Americans that do that, hopefully we'll see more Thomas Massey's, who says very clearly, I have no beef with Israel. I just don't want to fight their wars, and I don't want to give them any money.
Hey, guys, thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you could check out Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversenShow.com. See you there.